Hola, hola, Sandra. It's good to see you in my room. Really
Hola.
excited to be a part of this conference. I personally have a very personal story to Community Action Commission. My mother is a single mother of three, victim of domestic violence. We had to overcome a lot of challenges at a very young age, and Community Action became sort of like a passport to a new journey for my mother. I then went on to work at my local community action chapter here in Dauphin County, and then I moved on to bigger and better opportunities. And I then went back to that same community action commission to be a board member, and then ultimately became the board president. Serving for roughly about 1 or 2 years. So I had the amazing pleasure of doing sort of like the full circle, for a Community Action Commission. And it's just amazing to be a part of the conference today. So in this breakout room, we're really going to talk about using the DEI lens to address expanding access to services. So for me personally, I kind of want to open it up and talk about what are we doing well today? What are we not doing well? And how can we ideally help to improve access to services that our community desperately needs, or services in the areas of social and human services that we need to improve upon. So as everyone is I kind of want to open it up, for open topic and discussion. I'm going to be taking notes, and then I need someone to kind of volunteer to help me do a recap after our breakout room session is over. Come on, you don't have to be shy. So if we know, let's take examples, right? So if we know that you are in the social and human services area, and what are we doing well? What have we accomplished during COVID-19, for example, in the way that we expand access to services? If you can just give me 1 or 2 examples within your community organizations and nonprofit, what have you been doing well to expand access to services?
Hi, I'm Loina de Jesus from Central PA Food Bank. I'm with the SNAP team. I wanted to add, something very important that I did myself. When, the era has changed and many of us have become stronger community partners. So I saw myself in a position of, reaching out to other agencies because of the language barrier in Spanish. I'm just gonna set 2 quick examples. And please understand that I'm not judging, I'm just explaining what happened. When it comes to 211, it's a great resource. It's one of the main top resource helplines in many counties. But then I have a habit that when I'm introducing another type of resource or out of my agency, it's an outside agency, I rather like make a phone call myself sometimes first to make sure that that's not a barrier. So 211, when you used to dial it, it was all in English. It was a very, very difficult moment for many clientele that I was referring because they couldn't even select the option. So I had a good relationship with one person that had already retired from 211. And, she listened, she kind of told me we working on it. The point is that completely changed. Now you dial 211 and the options are clear. Something else happened when the school closures happened. Many parents, they were very confused about the school meals funding and the PEBT cards. That was a problem that the school district only had the recording in English. And that was another action that I took upon myself to reach out and say, listen, public schools have a diversity of children. It's not just the English language that is used. And, to come to the future, that was, also taken care of. And they actually added a live person to be part of that, contact helpline for the PEBT cards. I just wanted to state those 2.
That's phenomenal, Lina. Thank you so much for providing those real examples. I think that there's a lot of power to storytelling and sharing challenging stories and what was done to overcome those challenges and essentially share the success. Anybody else? And if and we don't have to keep it to what's just working. I mean, do we want to talk about what's missing? What do we know, about expanding access to services, right? So like we know that in order for us to expand access, we talk about, social determinants of health. What else should we be doing, to expand that social determinants of health? What do we need more of? What's missing? Instead of just keeping it to one category, I'm happy to kind of look at all 4 squads of this discussion and add bullet points to these things. I have some things that I want to say, but I want participation from the room.
Well, I want to add that many services, sometimes they are denied because of the component of these households. When you don't understand culture, you just see one thing. But then if you understand culture, you're going to learn why that household is so divided and why so many people live in one place. I think that sometimes, that is missed. And it's just, an understanding of, oh, there's you all doing everything together. You all, have to provide such information. You all. But if you go deeper in these households, you'll be surprised that sometimes people are there temporary, or they end up homeless because, they were nice to you one week and then the next week you have to go. There's a lot of things that I could say about many, many households. On top of that, you might have a senior that the wife died and then the daughter had to move in. There's a lot of explanations why certain houses do grow. And then they are penalized because they won't qualify for nothing because you want everybody's information. I think that that's something that in the future, I wish that it could change, because I think it will be more powerful to the entire household to have that hope that they won't be neglected because of that situation in that household.
That's beautiful.
Agree.
Thank you so much.
I agree with you, Lorena.
Is there anything you want to add, Sandra, to that?
Well, I was going to add before that, just say that, during this pandemic, I work for CAAP DEI Summit, so that's a preschool program from pregnant moms to 5 years old. And we were able to continue providing service to our families, even when the school was closed, by educating the parents and helping the parents understand what was COVID. And in different language, I speak Spanish, that we have a diversity of language, we have Nepalese, Arabic, and we were able to support those parents and be able to make them understand what was going on. But I do agree with Lorena. I did help a lot of parents. I'm one of the school health coordinators, the school nurse, what they call, and I have helped a lot of parents try to apply and struggle to I'm sorry for De Jesus if I'm pronouncing your first name wrong.
It's okay. Mm-hmm.
Lorena, struggling to that because they have been denied, they have been this, just because the situation that they had, they lose jobs, they lose the housing, they had to move with these people, having to understand, that it's not because we want to, it's the situation they ended up being, needing more support. That's the key.
Many resources include guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you count gross or even the net, you have to realize, just like food, we have 4 weeks in the month. First week, you pay rent, maybe you pay the bills. Come on, let's be real. By the 3rd week and the 4th week of the month, even if you've been working for 50 years, you're not going to have nothing in that fridge.
Yep.
Working, not working, with SNAP, no SNAP income, by the 3rd week and the 4th week of the month, many of us, we don't have nothing in that fridge, or we might have few items, but not a complete meal. I am Puerto Rican, and sometimes when I'm chatting in the communities, I be very careful how I use my terms, but I'm not afraid of using my cultural style. Depending on that audience, I dare sometimes to use the example. Who has been in the store with pennies, dimes, and quarters? They look at me like I got 4 heads, but guess what? I do feel comfortable because I do have a story myself. I was the oldest, going to the bank with pennies to help my mom feed my brothers. I'm not afraid of using that example because I want the public to understand that I am diverse, but at the same time, I know where I'm coming from. And sometimes and I respect George when he was telling his story about his mom, because I think that's how it should start with many of us. You know, that will help a lot of people to understand that they're not different. You know, you are probably, you know, Chinese, African-American, but maybe you did go through what I went through. Maybe you was that older child that needed to go to the bank because your brothers and mom needed to eat. You know, sometimes that is what takes you to a better relationship, not just with the clientele, your agency, your workplace. But if you don't know about me, you're not gonna know nothing about me.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we also, you know, I exactly what you said. I mean, sharing those personal stories, and that's what ends up leading us to this type of work and the type of service that we do. You know, and understanding our barriers and what we've had to overcome to do what we do today. Can we take the challenges of expanding access to services and now let's apply a DEI lens to these topics of discussion? So from a diversity and inclusion perspective, and equality and equity and inclusion, what do we know? What's missing? What's working? What do we need more of? I mean, clearly we need more Latino workforce members, right? In this area. So more diverse workforce. We need more language line access. So clearly I hear you guys talking about, you know, the challenges of materials not being available in those respective languages.
Not only the materials, not all families have access to, I know that they give the free phones, but not everybody is aware of that, you know, to be able to access the
Can you
service.
repeat that, Sandra?
¿Tú me escuchas?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you repeat
Okay.
that? You went away for a little bit.
That I'm saying not only just the language, you know, access to it, you know, like where they can go. I know that if you go to DPW, they have those computers, but during this pandemic, that was closed. You know, they didn't have the accessibility for the parents to be able to apply for any service, or if they went through the service, they were just, sometimes in the case, they were like, oh no, you have to do this, you have to do this, but they really did not did the action to support that. Okay, let's sit down. Let me use my computer. Let me help you apply for this.
Okay. What's missing? I mean, completely missing. I mean, you know, do we talk about, are we missing more cultural sensitivity trainings? Are we missing access to, you know, in-person classroom trainings, you know, on for our colleagues who perhaps are not understanding of our cultures or not understanding of how to effectively provide a more cultural sensitivity, you know, service to those demographics? I mean, what is totally missing from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective as it relates to expanding access to services and how we can be more responsible and better at reaching the consumers that we are reaching?
I think it's all of that. One of the things, I'm working at a charter school right now, so it's predominantly white staff serving predominantly brown and Black children and families, and so they don't have the statistics of the breakdown of the state. We serve the whole state from K through 12, and I don't know that our staff is getting the information that's intentional to each one of those regions. So what we've started was, and this is a good thing, we have community engagement coaches that are assigned to areas of the state so that they can do intentional in-person work and events in those areas and start building those, you know, relationships with those folks. But I know that we're missing the communication part to getting back with our staff so they know who's on the other side of that screen.
That's beautiful. Thanks for speaking up.
And we also missing a lot of literacy on different languages, George. Not only just the Spanish, but we are missing a lot of literacy in different language of the popular communities that we're serving.
We cover 27 counties. I'm still the main bilingual staff, believe it or not. And I do belong to the SNAP team, but I feel that and I always say it, I feel universal, I feel blessed, I feel diverse, because even though I am assigned to Lancaster-Bergen County because of, quote, the population that is there, that is completely growing, Hispanic-wise, you know, who am I to say that I don't cover the rest? Yes, I do, because of the population being spread. You know, like probably 3 months ago, they added the language line, 240 languages, but I've been with the food bank for the past 8 years. You know, I felt very blessed to be actually the first Hispanic female entering Central PA Food Bank. And it's something that, you know, I like to express it because it was through a blessing. You know, I'm not gonna get into religion, but then again, I have my own story. You know, I had my own struggles, and God blessed me to be with the mission of hunger. As far as the blessing, I had no idea how it was gonna be spread. So when it comes, you know, for me to find out that I was actually the first Hispanic female entering this workplace, you know, I said, okay, here I am, you know, let me let them know something first. And this is what I told my employer. If you limit my skills, I don't want to work for you. Because I already had the feeling that I was not only going to speak about food, I had the feeling that my background was going to help me to, you know, expand my wings. You know, I cannot accept limiting myself. I cannot just talk about food. I cannot just talk about hunger. And guess what? I am translating the entire food bank information because I am bilingual. Again, when I'm doing my outreach events, I cannot just speak about SNAP. I introduce each and one of the programs that we have, which makes me universal. It makes me not unique, but then again, it was up to me to let my employer know I could do more than just talk about food. So you might as well use my skills because I'm right here and I'm not going nowhere. And guess what? Yeah, things have changed. Things have really changed. And talking about, you know, DEI, you know, this is something that I already spoke about from the beginning. You know, I was telling them, you know, this has to change. You know, I'm bringing you feedback. You know, people are asking me, you know, why should I eat that? Or why do we have this? You know, I'm bringing you good feedback because this is going to be changing. I know it's going to change. And it's actually, you know, changing because, again, the language line was added just 3 months ago.
So if there was one more thing, Loina, that you could add to your work area, whether it's at the food bank or whether it's the type of work that you do, what else is missing for you to be successful in reaching the communities that you are looking to reach? What else is missing?
Okay, I think that what is missing is that when certain clienteles or households don't qualify for SNAP, you know, that's one of the best things about my job. No one is going to be hungry, but then the education piece come in. You know, the cultural food comes in, which is something that now we're working on it because it's a future need. You know, a lot of people had the question on how to prepare certain foods because they were given items that they've never seen in their lives. So, you know, I had to take a lot of time educating my own people, letting them know this is based on donations. You know, we have certain grants. But I am your voice. I'm going to bring this feedback to my employer so they could know, you know, what has to change. You know, I like that you telling me, even if it's a negative point, I'm going to bring into my workplace because they need to hear the negative too. So I think that, you know, that's part of that answer. You know, I need to be real. I cannot bring back, you know, feedback that is very limited. I have to tell it all.
So Lorna, would you also agree that what's missing is more creating a more culturally appropriate donations for the demographics that we are reaching, whether it's Latino or Nepalese or Arabic, and bringing those cultural food items into the food bank?
Got it. You know, and we talking about diversity. I love soul food, but I'm not African American. I'm an African Latin, female. But what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is that why not, eat the white food? Why not eat the Chinese food? Why not? It all comes to education. I remember back then when I started with the food bank, I was amazed because bringing that type of feedback, we have to respect the fact of the donors, whatever is donated, we have to respect that. We cannot neglect that donation. But then again, we spoke about it, we analyzed it, we said, what can we do? So they thought about the best thing. Before that food distributions, many partners already had a nutrition team preparing a recipe before the distribution so people could taste, and they were like blown away. What? This tastes like this? Oh my God, I cannot believe you did this recipe with just small items. That's a cultural change. It's not your food, but you like it. You learned, you was taught how to prepare the meal.
That's beautiful. Guys, anybody else? I mean, there's a few other people on this call that are being a little shy. What's working for you in the area of D&I as it relates to expanding access to services? What do we need more of? What's missing? I mean, if you were given an unlimited budget, right, of helping to expand access to services, and if you needed to be more cultural about those access, what would you implement?
So George, I went ahead and I'm sorry. I don't know if can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
yes.
Great. My name is Judea. I'm from Community Progress Council. So I wanted to, you talked about a little bit about more diverse workplace, right? So, I mean, I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I'm a new manager, right? So I've worked very hard towards, getting to the place that I am right now. And so, being a Latina woman, has, for me anyway, has been a sense of pride because, I'm the first one who went to college. I'm the first one to graduate. I'm the first one to get out of that kind of like, that generational poverty, right? And so the thing is, when we talk about a more diverse workplace and me being a manager right now, it's kind of like asking those questions about, if we go ahead and we look at somebody's resume, right? And so we're saying like, well, on the job description, it says, preferably they need like a bachelor's degree, right? It doesn't say they need it though, right? So my way of thinking is let's look at those resumes, right? And let's pull out those strengths, right? Those things that we can go ahead and those experiences, right? After we have that interview and be like, you know what? This person is a person that I can see in this team, right? They might not have all of that education, right? But they got those experiences, right? So let's go a little bit further in saying, hey, I see that you might not have, the education piece here, right? You got a little bit of education, right? But your experiences, the way you've worked out there, the way you volunteered, I mean, this is what our vision and mission is all about, right? So let's go one step further and say, you know what? I really want to hire you. I really want you to be part of this team. Let's take it a little farther. Have you ever thought of maybe going back to school, getting your education? Once you're here for a certain amount of time, we can do a professional development, right? The organization will probably be able to help you in paying for that college education, those books, those things, right? And then having those really, really great conversations about what do you want to do with your future and giving people the opportunity that maybe other people are like, nope, if they don't have that degree, if they don't have that education, that we cannot hire them. Thinking outside the box, right? And giving people the opportunity to actually have these type of, of jobs, right? But also, I'm always really big on if somebody comes from like, let's just say Puerto Rico, or they come from, you know, Dominican Republic and stuff like that, looking at, you know, not just going ahead and, oh, well, you know, they came from another country, or they, you know, they came from here, whatever, you know, not to just look at their kind of transcripts and their diploma and say, well, no, this is from another place, so we're not going to accept it. Asking those questions, why can't we not accept this? Why is this such a barrier? You know what I mean? Why is this such a challenge? And then saying, you know, they went to school, they did this, they did these things. So, you know, let's be more accepting of, you know, kind of saying, you know what, this person did this in their country, or they did this over here. They have all of this experience. Like, why can't we go ahead and, you know, not just be set in our ways, right? And say, well, they need this and they need that, right? Because a lot of times life experience of volunteering, doing all these other things, you know, go a very long way, especially in the human services field, right? Because that means that that person is able to have empathy, that person is able to bring their own experience, right? But they're also, it's wonderful when somebody sees someone who looks like them, right? And says, you know, because a lot of times, you know, I'm here in my job and, you know, they're talking to somebody else and all of a sudden this person's like, hey, you know, this person speaks Spanish, can you help? I was like, sure. So I go out, as soon as they see me, they're like, oh my God, you speak Spanish. They say it in Spanish, like, oh, qué bueno.
Ay, Dios mío, gracias a Dios.
And then they're saying everything. They're like, ay, Dios mío, gracias, mi amor, no te apures. You know, they get like really excited because, oh my God, somebody like me, somebody who understands me, right? So the thing is that I think, you know, when you said that, that was really powerful. And I think that as, you know, as we grow, right? As we grow, because I started as a family coach, then a self-sufficiency coach, now I'm a manager. As we grow, I think it's really important to always remember where we came from, right? And to always remember who's behind us, right? And we want everybody to come, right? So the thing is always remembering, always being humble. But I think that was really powerful when you said that. And it made me think that because, you know, here I am, you know, brand new to being a manager, but I'm asking questions, I'm thinking, right? Because the thing is, a lot of people are coming back into the workforce because a lot of jobs after the pandemic, a lot of jobs are gone. And people are like looking for work. They're looking for all of these things. So we need to be more open-minded. We need to kind of like get out of that box and start really looking, saying, you know what? Yes, there's opportunity for everyone, right? But not just say it, do it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for speaking up. I think that you
Thank
really
you.
on the head. That's beautiful.
And
All right, guys, go ahead.
George, I just want to say something following what Yadira what she was saying. You know, we need to have more empathy. When I in an interview, you know, not judging the person because the person's not saying it the right way. You know, and I'm not talking only about Latinos. You know, if we have a staff that's coming from Arabic or Nepalese, from different cultures, and they coming in, to not judge them because they're not pronouncing. You know, I'm grateful that I was not judged when I started at this program 15 years ago, because I even had to have a translator sitting in my interview to be able to become in this agency, be a nurse in this agency, you know, and I was grateful because that person, Ludin, was, you know, remember George Ludin, was sitting in my interview and she was able to help me say some of the words, you know, that I wanted to say correctly, you know, and they even sent me afterwards to get a English as a second language class so I can be less afraid of speaking my language, their language, English, you know, but we also have to be, ¿cómo se dice en español, en inglés? Well, empathy, no empathy, dejar de ser tan judging.
Yeah, I wrote it on here. More empathy, understanding. Don't judge other people's dialect and language skills. Yeah, that's a beautiful success story, Sandra, because, you know, you were trying to build yourself up and, you know, ultimately you reach your communities with a service that, you know, you can provide, but you were lacking something. And I mentioned that earlier, you know, during the main presentation. It's about creating opportunities and helping to build a pipeline of talent and giving opportunities to those that may not have otherwise received them. But ultimately you have a larger gain because you were able to find something or someone that the community really needed.
And be able to give it, and be able to help another families to be successful as I was too. That's the only good positive thing.
That's beautiful.
No, I believe in second, third, and maybe a fourth chance. You know, following what Yadira stated, you know, the SNAP helpline, you just don't know what's going to happen with each phone call. And I remember this specific young guy, I was asking him the questions. And when I got to the point of income, it was a pause, it was a silence. And all of a sudden, God is my witness. He screamed on the phone and he stated, "Lady, you don't understand. You don't understand. I don't want to sell drugs no more."
Wow.
When I heard this young guy saying that, it took me to that point of how many doors were never open for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How many times he probably did time in jail, but he complied. He already went through the years or whatever time he had to take, to comply with that, I guess, guilty case.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it's done. It's done. Why, if I'm already, let's say, reborn, and here I am again, starting again, why should that haunt me?
Yeah, those are really powerful stories, Loina, that you were sharing. And I think all of us, in the line of work that we do, I think that we all have, and I call it the power of storytelling. It builds us up. It allows us to understand. It allows us to be more humble about the communities and the individuals that we are reaching. So thank you for sharing that story. Anybody else, guys? I mean, what is there anything that is working that we would like to see more of? Anything else that we know is still missing?
George, did you saw the comments on the chat?
No.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple that has said good information.
Oh, this is awesome. No, I didn't have that up. Let me stop sharing so that I can see the screen a little bit bigger. Oh, this is awesome. Yeah, I can add some of this stuff here too. Practicing inclusive and diverse hiring. Yep, we already have that. Wonderful. Help to shift mindset. I will add that.
George, when you were talking earlier about having food that people enjoy eating, I think that's so true. We run a gleaning initiative in Adams and Franklin County. And when we started putting out fresh produce, not requiring any paperwork, the Latino community just really started coming to get food from our food pantry and our gleaning initiative because it was fresh produce. They knew how to cook it. They just didn't have access to it, even though in much of our community, those are the people who are helping to harvest it. They couldn't get it access.
Wow.
So
that's so powerful.
Miss Megan, I'm sorry, I have to say this, George. Maybe you had a lot of participation because most of the produce are used for the sofrito. Many products, that's an expensive culture.
Loina, what is sofrito? Can you talk about what is I personally,
Yes,
I know what it is, so don't go off on me. Yo sé lo que es. I don't make it, but I for others that don't know what sofrito is, I needed to explain it.
So
I make it.
Sofrito is the best thing that you could add to mostly everything. It will make your food taste better. And it's basically, the green peppers, the onions. You might add other items depending on how you want to be creative. But mainly it's the green peppers, the onions, the garlic, probably the red pepper or the yellow pepper. The cilantro, the culantro, those are the kind of the main items that you need.
El
sazón.
El recado, yeah, el recado. And then you could add the sazón, you could add certain things, but that's one of the best things that you could add to most of your meats. It could be the rice, it could be the beans, but that's something that a lot of people, culture-wise, they spend a lot of money. So when it comes to produce, believe me, that was something plus. It was a very good program to have.
Yeah, and I'll also share with you, when we started using our COVID-19 mobile unit that would go out to food banks, and Loina, we partnered with you guys on some COVID-19 events, last summer. When we started to go out and do COVID-19 testing and vaccinations at some of those food bank events, some people would take out the items that they knew how to cook and use, and they would leave the other items behind, like ready to throw away. And I remember running after a lady. This was in 2020. I remember running after a lady, and telling her, ma'am, you forgot your kiwis and your strawberries. And you can use these and even make smoothies at home. And her son didn't even know what a kiwi was. He asked, what's a kiwi? And she told me that she wasn't going to take those because she didn't have a blender at home. And I came back to the office super pissed off, like super upset, because, in the work that I do, and I get to work with like these really major corporations like the Highmarks and the Aetnas and the CVS pharmacies and, these really big conglomerate healthcare companies, we sometimes take for granted that everybody has the tools in their kitchen, that things that we have at home, everybody else has at home. And that's not the case. So, I came back to my desk supercharged and, I told the team, we need to start putting tools into people's kitchens. And I mean, I think in 2020 alone, I think we bought over 1,000 blenders and we just gave out blenders at all of our events. And we started, providing those kitchen tools that we needed to give to people in order for them to live healthier, more active, engaged lives, because we're giving them the food, but sometimes they don't even have the actual tools on how to make them. So, again, the power of storytelling and, changing and putting into people's hands the things that they need to actually live healthier, more active, engaged lives. So this conversation has been phenomenal for us. Anything else that we want to add?
I just want to follow what Dr., one of the panelists, Ms. Cherie stated. I spoke about this with my own team. Maybe we should start asking more why. That's one of the phrases that the doctor used during this presentation. Maybe if you ask more why, you will gain more or what else is going on. Nobody's forced to do it, but then if this is gonna be something serious that we taking upon of taking action, that's probably, something that we could start asking, why this, why that? And then you could probably have a lot of outcomes, just asking just a little bit more.
So not getting comfortable with how things have always been done in the past, but challenging, the way that processes are built and the way that things are still being done. I love it.
George, something else that we found to be really helpful is in social media, we've tried to make space for families. So especially with the produce that we have, made space for people to share their recipes or their cooking experiences, or to do a little mini cooking show for people. And what's been great is they are able to show their peers all the things they're making. And it's been great for funders because there's always this belief that low-income folks or people who are marginalized don't know. Well, they are very capable. These folks were making amazing things. And it was great for funders to see it was about access. Like frequently it's about access. So that was really helpful for us.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm adding that to the document under what do we know and what's working. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
I don't want to leave this one out. If we're going to be real, let's be real. And this is just me. We're talking about culture. We're talking about DEI. But let me tell you, sometimes your own people, your own culture, they are the barriers. Who are you, to tell me that I should pay my bill because my nails are done, because you see my hair done, because you see a BMW parked outside. Let me tell you how I got my hair done, my nails, and how I got the car. I'm in a shelter and I won a prize. They gave me a gift card to do my hair and my nails. The car, my grandmother died. I mean, it's just a scenario. But that's another real story. Our own people, they need to be rechecked. You cannot spread something because, you live next to me and you belong to the Department of Human Service. You know, you are in the supermarket and you saw me doing something. Maybe I was in a social place and I was having fun. And because I was having fun, you thinking that there's a bunch of things that I could tell you. But I'm daring to say that to our own people, they need to be rechecked.
Our own cultural barriers. Yeah, at times, as Latinos, for example, I could not see Loina driving a better car than the car that I drive, or Loina could not see me in a better house than, her home. So those are cultural barriers that we in our own respective communities need to overcome. I've seen that before, Loina, so I know exactly where you're coming and what you're talking about. So thank you. Charlotte, I think that we've had some phenomenal participation, in this breakout room. I'd like to give everybody a few minutes, to go back to the main room. I know that we're kind of coming up on our time here on the 5-minute mark, but I'd like to kind of give everybody a few minutes. So if you think I've missed something, please let me know.
Thank you, George, and everybody.
Thank you, Sandra. I'm going to go ahead and leave the room, Charlotte. I'm going to go back to the main room and wait for the main session to start. So I'm kind of giving everybody their own 5-minute break here before we get started in the main session. Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
And everyone else, if you'd like to, you're welcome to leave the room and go to the main session. And it might be a minute or two before it begins, but at least you'll connect over there.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
See you there.
Okay, thank you.
We had a